Hi, my name is Joseph, and today I want to discuss House of the Dragons, which ran from August 21st, 2022, and it ended October 23rd, 2022. So 1 year. So right off the bat, House of the Dragons is a show that does contain a huge and simple cast of characters. So because of this, more than likely, I will be stumbling upon the names from time to time. So I do have on my on my laptop the list of characters and cast names just in case. So I do ask for your patience in regards to that. And then before I start talking about House of the Dragon itself, I want to discuss the dragon in the room, pun intended. The fact that HBO gave a green light to go ahead and do House of the Dragons so shortly after the end of Game of Thrones season 8. So I'm not going to lie, really quickly, my personal history. When House of the Dragons was first announced, I was not really too interested. I did watch the teaser trailer, but I thought it was like whatever. I thought that just because I was disappointed with the way that with the way Game of Thrones did end season 8. I have read the books. I'm caught up with the books. I know the story is not yet over. And so all in all, it really was just a huge disappointment, and I didn't have the passion to invest myself into another story set in the world of Westeros. Yet despite this, when the show eventually did come out, when the actual trailer did release, I did watch it. I was intrigued by the portrayal of the characters. I'm not going to lie, as an individual who did watch Doctor Who back in the day, I did watch the 9th, 10th, 11th, and bit of the 12th Doctor. Oh, excuse me. I watched all the way up to Peter Capaldi's Doctor. Excuse me, I'm mispronouncing his last name. But I never finished Peter Capaldi's run of the Doctor. I stopped, I think, 1 or 2 seasons. I think I stopped when Clara's character left. So I was only interested because of the actor Matt Smith, who portrayed the 11th Doctor or the 10th Doctor. Excuse me, everyone's been a while since I've seen Doctor Who. And yeah, so that's primarily one of the only reasons why I wanted to check out the trailer. And again, so it did intrigue me. And then when the show came out, I am still subscribed to HBO, and I thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm a member of HBO. I might as well just check it out, right? And so I put it on, and to be honest with everyone, with Game of Thrones, I would watch it with the intent of watching it. I would have nothing else in the background. But with House of the Dragon, I was actually doing some work, and I decided to just have that out on the background. And it actually came to the point where I stopped doing my work and started paying attention to the show because it was what was catching my attention. And yeah, so I really did find myself becoming a fan of House of the Dragons. I did watch the show twice. Once when it first came out on air, and then again specifically for this video, I was in the mood of rewatching it. And I have to say, it's a really fun, tragic story about a family. One does need to keep in mind, it's of course a privileged family, an affluent family, right, the royal family. But even if we just stick at that level, then I don't think there's not much fun to be had with this story. When we look at the nuances of the story, of the narration, it really becomes a tragic story of what occurs when one puts duty over love. And yeah, so season 1 was a really, I think they being the writers, the show creators of House of the Dragon, I think they did a really great job of getting a really complicated story and making it digestible for a TV format. I am looking forward to season 2, and I just have to say that all the actors who portrayed these characters, they did such a great job of making the audience, or at least me personally, care about the characters. So with that being said, some of my favorites was Otto Hightower, Viserys, Princess Rhaenyra, the young version. She did such a great job. I really liked her. I was a little bit upset when we had to transition to the adult version, but thankfully the Emma D'Arcy, she also did a pretty good job of portraying Princess Rhaenyra. Alicent Hightower, again, same issue. Really loved her younger version, who was portrayed by Emily Carey. No. It was portrayed by Olivia Cook, I believe, and then transitioned over to Emily Carey. Maybe it was the vice versa. Again, I'm not the best when it comes to actors, excuse me. But like with Princess Rhaenyra, I had that same issue. I got so used to these actors portraying these characters, I was concerned that the transition would be a little bit jarring, a little bit uncomfortable. But thankfully, everything was A-okay. And then of course we have the Targaryen family as a whole. They did such a good job of picking the young kids to portray these characters. But I'm gonna have to say that the older cast really does take the cake. I am going to admit I am being biased. I did watch The Last Kingdom, so of course Baby Monk. I'm a fan of that character, Ewan Mitchell portraying Aemon Targaryen. Targaryen. With that being said, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but wow, the way that this first season ends, right when when Aemon goes up against there's so many characters, not Jace, but rather Jace's brother. Is it Jacaerys? No, that's Jace. Pardon me, everyone. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to find the young man's name who portrays, excuse me, the Targaryen who gets eaten. Anyways, I don't want to spend time looking for that. But the way that season, that towards the end of that episode, I loved how Aemon's face when he's able to see that although he did enjoy emotionally torturing his younger his half stepbrother, he did have a lot of regret. I wouldn't say remorse. We'll see next season if he does have remorse, but definitely regret. I don't think Aemon meant to kill that young boy. Excuse me, I'm sorry everyone, I don't recall his name. I'm not going to lie, since watching House of the Dragons, I started watching Game of Thrones season 1. Luke. His nickname was Luke, I believe, Lucerys. But when Aemon killed Lucerys, one could tell that there was a lot of regret. And I do believe the season ends with the news being relayed to Rhaenyra, and the actress did such a great job of really portraying the emotion that Rhaenyra was feeling. I do believe she really does love her children. And for her for her to lose her youngest so quickly and just being sent not into battle, but rather a diplomatic mission, that must be really devastating for her. And just the way that it ended, I'm really looking forward to the next season. And then with that being said, I do need to discuss, pardon me everyone, I do appreciate your patience, but when Rhaenyra, they both have the same name? Excuse me, when the queen who should have been, or the queen who never was, I believe they do have the same name. Typical royal families, but always continue the same name. Anywho, so I'm just going to call her the aunt, or the queen that should have been. The scene where she gets onto her dragon and she crashes not the coronation, but the announcement of who the next king is going to be. That was really exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I feel bad for the common folk, but that's a conversation for a different time, a different day. And but I'm talking about all these other characters. But I'm gonna be completely honest. I think from the first season, the individuals who take the cake, who really steal the show, will have to be, for me personally, Paddy Considine for Viserys Targaryen, and Rhys Ifans for Otto Hightower. Those two characters were my favorite characters, with Matt Smith's Daemon Targaryen being a close, I'm going to have to say maybe a fourth character, because Princess Rhaenyra, the daughter, she's going to have to be my third favorite character. So in lists, let me list it. Viserys, Otto Hightower, Princess Rhaenyra, and then Daemon after that. And then since we'll round it up at a nice 5, I'm about to place Alicent Hightower and the Queen Who Never Was, or the Queen Who Should Have Been, tied for 5th place. What I appreciated so much about Viserys' character was that I feel was able to sense the love that he had towards his daughter, but at the same time the complications that he had as a man in the role of being king. I believe if Viserys had given the opportunity, he would not have remarried. He would have been just content with living out his lives, being a widowed husband, and having his relationship with his daughter. But unfortunately, that's not an option for him because of who he was in his position. He was the he is the king of Westeros. Thus, he needs to remarry and solidify his position as ruler through offspring. Despite the fact that he did have an heir through Princess Rhaenyra, no, I'm not going to use we, I'm sorry, because the book, this story is not placed in modern times. We, as in like the audience interacting with the story. But the individuals who live in the society of Westeros, they just don't like the idea of a woman being in charge. So despite there being an heir, technically, it's an heir that the people will not accept. I really did love how Viserys, he knew that, yet he still made Rhaenyra his heir apparent. Did he do so for the most sincerest of reasons? That's a topic that I think one can have a conversation about. And that's just an aspect that I really loved about the show. The fact that most of these characters are not just simple black and white characters, they're morally gray and they have a lot of nuance to them that one is able to have a conversation about them. And Otto Hightower, is there a villain? In this first season, I would definitely say that Otto Hightower comes closest to fulfilling that role, especially in the first half of the season, where it's quite obvious that Otto Hightower, the things that he's doing for the the advancement of his own family, the Hightowers. But with that being said, the actor who portrayed him did such a great job of making the character fun to see what he's going to state to the king, what he's going to state to other characters. It was essentially kind of like I'm forgetting the names, excuse me, but from Game of Thrones, when not Tyrion, excuse me, his father, Tywin Lannister, or when Littlefinger was on screen. One of the things that one appreciated was the fact that what they stated to other characters, that's what made their I don't like saying the same word multiple times. When those characters spoke with other individuals, that's what made the audience really appreciate those characters. The dialogue that was being stated, the interactions they're having with other individuals. That really is what I consider Otto Hightower. And a slight extension to that being, of course, Strong, the individual, Larys Strong, portrayed by Matthew Needham. I do appreciate his character, but I think I'm not waiting to season 2 to see if he's at the same level of Littlefinger, Tywin Lannister, and Viserys. Yeah, Viserys. But with that being said, I am really appreciating Larys Strong. He's a force to be reckoned with, and definitely an individual who knows how to utilize his power. And it's quite crazy that he's also able to go against his own family, right? Patricide. He had no qualms about assisting the queen. So he has a lot in common with Otto Hightower, but in a much more scrupulous way, right? And in addition to that, I'm already about 10 minutes in or so and I haven't even discussed the dragons. I'll be honest with everyone, I did appreciate and enjoy the dragons. I think the show did a good job of making each dragon look unique. I think the first time one watches it, it's really hard to see that uniqueness, but when one does a rewatch, because they're aware about all the elements already, everything's in place, it becomes a little bit easier to pick up on the nuances of the dragons, in terms of their designs. I think it was really cool seeing. I loved how the show began with the silhouette of the dragon flying through King's Landing. Obviously, I think that was done on purpose to juxtapose that to the end of season 8, where everyone being the residents of King's Landing was quite scared and shocked to see dragon silhouettes flying over King's Landing. Then, of course, they started attacking. King's Landing. But really juxtaposing the time difference. That was really cool. There were some elements where, unfortunately, the show did kind of fall back upon latter half Game of Thrones. I say that half because I think most would agree that after elements of season 4 was definitely starting to show its cracks in terms of its storytelling. But for the most part, I would agree. I think most would agree that season 4 of Game of Thrones was where everything was still at its peak, and then season 5 and onwards when things started going down a little bit. There were some elements of that latter half of Game of Thrones for specifically like with Damien's character and when he attacks the crab feeder, all those arrows that's coming at him, a volley of arrows, not one of them hit him. Not towards the end, 2 do hit him, but 2 out of about 300 arrows. That part was a little bit silly. But with that being said, the first time I watched it, it was really aggravating. I was really into it, so I could see why they did that. So would I recommend House of the Dragon? Yes, I really would. I know I was a little bit all over the place with this review. I thank you for your patience, but it is truly because it's such, despite it only having, I believe, 10 episodes or 8 episodes, 10 episodes, It's jam packed with so much. The first 6 episodes is essentially the first half of these characters' lives, with the second half of the season being the later half. The All of season one is essentially just world building to set up this conflict that's going to kick off. Well, it is kicking off already, and that will be the focal and focus point for season 2. I've read that this show is going to be 3 seasons. So hopefully they'll do their best to keep it short and not go beyond that. Definitely Game of Thrones, it would have benefited with more seasons, not just 8 seasons. But with House of the Dragon, because I am aware that the book is a lot shorter, Fire and Blood, I believe it's called. I'm glad that they seem to be keeping in mind the source material in relation to the TV formatting. Yeah, please let me know if you watched House of the Dragon. I would personally highly recommend it. If one has any qualms because of the fact that it's, Westeros and one has to return to Westeros after season 8, I would say please don't judge House of the Dragon by Game of Thrones. It's its own separate entity, and it does a really good job of standing up on its own. With that being said, I would still have to say that season one of Game of Thrones is probably so far stronger, but I might make a video about that when I finish season 1 of Game of Thrones. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it. Have a great day and take care. Bye bye, everyone. Oh, excuse me. By the way, everyone, I usually don't have that up, but since it's up here anyways, I do other videos on Digimon Seekers, so I forgot to take that down. So excuse me about that. Have a good day, though.